Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Tirza Schaefer, the Smiling Goddess, and I have my friend Vanessa Lovell here today. Welcome. I'm so happy she joined me for this interview. And such an interesting person, wonderful character, and she does such brilliant art. So, I'm so happy to have her here now. Vanessa, how did we meet? Say hello.
Hi everyone. So we met through Sinead Fine's Rising of the Witch program, didn't
Mhm.
we? Which was a
How
really powerful, yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool and
Hmm.
very I've always been drawn to all of the Celtic stuff and the pagan stuff,
Yes.
but grew up in Australia and whatever. So it's great because I finally got to sort of play with the witches. Um, yeah, yeah. It was a really good course, really interesting. Can't say I've done a lot of it since. I find I'm better with a group of people. Like if there's lots of us doing things together, then I'll do it. But if there's not a group, then I tend to
Yeah.
don't tend to always follow the rituals myself. But yeah,
Yeah, I do as I feel like it. So it's not like really regularly, but when I do it, I just feel the magic and it feels really empowering to me. So,
that's right.
um,
And I suppose I already have my own little ritual, don't I, with my paintings. So
oh yeah,
um,
you do.
that's my version of witchcraft.
You create magic.
I do indeed. I do
I
indeed.
absolutely loved it. And you created a painting for that course that time, which I loved so much. I put it on my course folder. Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Amazing. I
That-
love it.
So yeah, so thank you so much for that, for sharing that with us in that course. But of course, that's not the only thing you've done
No, that's right.
artistically. So and I find it very, you don't meet many people who do that sort of kind of, use those materials for artwork. Not that I'm an art expert, but I found that so interesting. So how did you get to that? How was your like artistic development?
Yeah, well, look, it goes way, way back, really. Like I always loved my art and I always loved my color, and I'd get all excited for Christmas time. I remember one year begging my mum to buy me a little packet of Joe Sonia folk art paints because I just wanted to play with the colors. And Um, so, like I always did art all through school, through high school.
Mhm.
Um, and when how old was I? I was about 27, 26, 27, I think. I started my own business as a face painting fairy.
Oh,
So
that is so cool. I love that.
yeah, so I used to get dressed up as a fairy or a mermaid or a unicorn princess or whatever
Nice. That's so cute.
whatever it was.
Love it.
Um, every weekend, and I'd go off to parties. And so when I started face painting, I was like awful, like awful. uh, but as with anything, the more you practice, the better you get. And there was a whole series of
Absolutely.
videos, and so and then I met a lot of other face painters in other cities, and we would sort of go and have little face painting jams together, and we'd all sit there and paint like pregnant bellies and bodies and stuff.
Mhm.
So so I sort of developed my skills a lot during those years, and I actually used to paint pictures with my face paints. So if
Cool.
you've ever seen like they call them rainbow cakes or split cakes, and what they are is they're like little little
Cakes.
containers for the face
Okay.
paints, and they'll
Yeah.
have little strips of different colors. So when you
Nice.
run a sponge over it, or you run a brush over it, and then you put it on the kid's face, you'll get the full rainbow or whatever
Cool.
the color combination is.
Yeah.
So I used to use those on paper, and I'd make all these pretty rainbow colored flower paintings and stuff, and it was fun. But so even back uh 14 years ago, I was making these little paintings and giving them to people, making them into cards. And then gradually evolved. I ended up deciding to stop the fairy business. And one of the realizations I had was if I was going to stop, I'd just have to keep painting somehow, because I needed that creative outlet. Like, that was the thing I knew I'd miss the most, was opening up the face paints and smelling them and seeing all the colors, like I just love the colors. So I decided to become a professional artist, and that's obviously a lot harder than you. So it was around about that stage I started to see resin art a lot. I was fascinated by that, and I hadn't seen a lot of it. So I thought, great, I'll get in early and I'll learn how to do it. And that was a lot harder and stickier and messier, and I didn't like that one very much. But I ended up getting to acrylic pouring, where you have pouring medium mixed with paints, and then you sort of swirl it all over the canvas and stuff. And that was fun, and I really loved doing that for a while. But it takes up a lot of room, and it takes ages to dry. And then I was part of a number of groups on Facebook, and they were for people who did like what you call flow art. And somebody put a picture up of some alcohol ink art that she did, and I went, oh, I like that, because the colors are so vibrant. And it just grabbed me. So I knew that I wanted to try it. So of course, this first opportunity, I went out and I bought stuff. And first paintings were pretty awful, as you can imagine.
Well, yeah, you have to start somewhere, isn't it? And get used to the medium. I got a little
bit addicted. That's right. I got a bit addicted to it, and because it's on paper, you can keep heaps of them. So I literally have hundreds and hundreds of paintings, but most of them are stacked in a pile this high in the cave. Whereas I've still got cupboards full of the old canvases I did back when I was doing the pouring stuff. So so that's how I got into it. And then back in, I think it was 2021, I decided for the month of January I was going to do a painting every day, or some kind of creative activity every day, and just post a photo just for my own challenge, I suppose. And I did it, and everybody loved it. And so I just decided to keep doing it. So for 2 years straight, I did a painting every day. And some days I'd get super excited and do 3 or 4. So I have a lot of paintings.
You have so much creative energy. I find that so amazing. But you're not just doing the art by itself, which is amazing already, but you've got that really deep spiritual background as well.
Yeah.
So would you like to tell us how that kind of went, your exploration? You probably weren't raised with that.
Well, I was very fortunate in that. So my mum was raised. So my mum and dad are both what you call 10-pound poms. So they both emigrated to Australia in the 60s, right? And so so my mum was raised as a Protestant, and my dad was raised as a Catholic. And then when they married, they kind of went, religion, we're not really that interested, and they just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
So I was always the woo-woo kid. I was always interested in the ghosts and the beds and the, like I remember begging them to take me to, they had the civilization exhibition, which was, King Tutankhamun and all the relics from Egypt and stuff. They came over to Australia when I was like 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, Dad, you've got to take me. I have to go see all the Egypts. So, like I was always that kid. And so as soon as I could, I was going to psychic fairs and
amazing.
I think I had the first past life regression when I was 17, because I was just fascinated by the mind. I decided when I was 14, I was reading a book called The Giant Book of the Supernatural. And there was a chapter in there, it was all about hypnotherapy or hypnosis and magnetism and stuff. And I remember reading that chapter and I went, oh, I want to do this. I want to learn this. I've got to play with people's minds.
I love that.
Yeah.
At that
So,
age, especially, that's amazing.
oh,
That's really,
totally Ness.
yeah.
Like I knew then, and so so the first past life regression I did was at age 17. I actually went and did a hypnotherapy course when I was 21. Um,
Wow.
I've learnt tapping. I've learnt I'm a belief coding practitioner, so I work with um, like behavioral patterns and beliefs that keep us stuck.
Yeah. How
Um,
does that work? I mean, I've heard the term, but I've not actually.
yeah, so it's belief coding is a combination of a number of other techniques. So things like NLP, hypnotherapy, emotion code, tapping,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So so what
Cool.
we do is we look at we look at a specific discomfort. So say for instance you say, oh, I can't seem to break, 2,000 euro a month kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so we go, all right, we look at what all the thoughts and beliefs are around that, how it's impacting you, how it feels in your body. We look at, so I ask a whole stack of
Mhm.
questions. Um, and when I've got enough information, we then look at if there's a trapped emotion around that and when that was first installed. So usually
Mhm.
back in childhood, sometimes past life stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and we go back and we resolve that situation. We sort of empower you in that moment, and then we do that with any other memories that are also attached. And once we've got all that sorted, we then code in the new beliefs. So it's a pretty
That
cool process.
is, yeah, that sounds so amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it because I can make people cry. I love it.
Yeah, we had a chat yesterday and you
Yeah.
told me, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I've trained in those. I'm also a raindrop technique practitioner and Egyptian emotional clearing technique practitioner. So there are a couple of um, modalities that you use with the Young Living essential oils.
Hmm.
Um, the Egyptian clearing technique it's actually based on an ancient ritual that they used to use on the pharaohs and also on the high priests and priestesses.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the original technique, I think it was done over 3 days with two practitioners, and obviously you can't spend that long working on somebody, so this is kind of like a condensed version.
Yeah.
But what happens with that is we've got some little sort of ritual stuff we do, and then the person gets on the bed, and then I anoint them with certain oil blends on certain chakras and parts of the body.
Hmm.
And then in between the anointing, it's like energy work, Reiki, that kind of thing. And the whole thing's done in complete silence. So the idea being that you just have that space to really feel whatever you've got to feel.
Hmm.
And it's quite an interesting experience. Often people will feel somebody else in the room. They might feel somebody touching their feet while I'm touching their head, or they might have weird sensations. It's really a cool one. So
Amazing.
yes, I've done that. I've done heaps of psychic development work. In fact, I've just finished doing another psychic development course recently, and the main thing I got from it was I didn't need to do it because I've already done it all. But I already did it all. I keep thinking, oh yeah, I'm not really psychic. I'm not really a medium. I'm not really any of these things. And then I do the course and I go, yeah, but I already do all that. That's just it's so I think the intuitive stuff is so normal for me that I don't realize that it's not normal for everyone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think like we compare ourselves as well. Like
Oh
you've
yeah.
heard a story about somebody saying, "Oh, you're going to be having twins in 3 years or something." You're like, well, "How the hell did you do that?" You know, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I couldn't tell you that, and then you
Yep,
feel like you're not that. So
exactly.
which is a bad thing, because intuition
Exactly.
works in so many different ways and levels and
And the thing is as well, like, so when my husband was a kid, he wanted to learn how to fly a plane. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to talk to dead people. I know, I tell you.
I love that. You're just such an interesting character. I love that. I love people who are outside the norm.
Yeah.
quotation marks norm, what's normal really anyway. Everybody has their quirks, but that is so interesting, it's like
Yeah.
astonish me,
So
surprise me.
I always wanted to talk to dead people. I always wanted to be psychic. I always wanted to like do magic. Um,
Yeah.
but I kind of convinced myself that I couldn't do those things because I didn't see spirits walking around and I didn't have these disembodied voices speaking to me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, obviously I'm not. I'll just have to deal with that. Which is funny because, I like ever since I was little, I was reading books about psychics and me. So I knew that you didn't have to have those things, but at the same time, it didn't click until
Yeah.
probably about 4 years ago, actually. Um, and I was listening to
Mm.
various psychics and even Tyler Henry, Hollywood Medium dude, and a lot of them go, no, I don't hear people out here. I just hear my own voice in my head. And I went, oh, I've got that all the time. Like, it doesn't stop, like you walk into a room and the voice goes, oh, you might want to grab that. You can need that later. And you go, no, I'll be fine. And then sure enough, later on you go, all right, yeah, sorry, didn't listen again. And in fact, I think one of the big things that I always point to with this was when I was about 17, 18. It was after work and I was meeting my boyfriend in town. And we were meeting at an arcade. So, they've got all the car racing games and stuff. And he was running a bit late. And I thought, all right, well, while I'm waiting, I'll just have a game. So I sat down at this car racing game that was right next to the door. And they had sort of like a glass frontage
Uh-huh.
on the street. And so this car racing game was right at the front, right next to the door.
Okay.
And so I sit down and I've got my handbag and I put my handbag down on this side. And I couldn't see it from where I was sitting. And I went to start the game and the voice goes, don't put your handbag there, it's going to get stolen. And I went, okay. So I picked up the handbag and I put it down on the other side in between this one and that one.
Yeah.
And then I went, don't be fucking stupid. You're not going to lose the handbag. Nobody's going to steal it. So I picked it up again and I put it back.
And it got stolen?
And it got stolen. And that's the thing, it was right down here and it was sort of outside of my line of vision. So I couldn't see it where I was. And I was sitting there playing the game and all of a sudden I went, shit. Yeah, it's gone. So
That's how we learn to trust our intuition.
yes. So that was a big one.
Yeah.
But even with that, I still sort of didn't think that I was psychic, right? I mean, I think everyone is anyway. I just think everybody's got slightly different talents and skills with it all.
Yeah. And it's also how much you develop it and trust it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've got to say, I'm a bit lazy. Like I don't get up in the morning and do yoga and meditate for half an hour. Like I'm a bit ADHD, so I just don't tend to, like I kind of need routines, but I don't have routines. And then, I just drop my bundle on a regular basis. So, so I don't practice in that sense, but I also think I don't, like, I think if I did practice, it would be a lot more intense. I think it would be a lot more obvious, maybe. But yeah, I haven't developed that routine yet where I can stick to it and make sure that I,
Yeah,
do my day.
I feel you on that one. I'm not such a super routine person either. I've got my few little bits, like having my morning coffee, so then I sit outside, just listen to the birds chirping, which is quite, sometimes I go into meditation and then sometimes I'm just relaxed and chill out, but it's just like, I don't sit there for like half an hour going like this. Absolutely. But I mean, you have developed it anyway, and you're doing your artwork, which is highly intuitive as well, isn't it? So,
Yeah. And so what happened with that was
mm,
I was doing the artworks,
Mm-hmm.
and this was around about the time when I'd started doing the painting every day,
Yeah.
I think. Maybe not. I can't remember. It was a while ago. And there was one in particular I remember. There was a friend of mine who, she just lost her husband. He'd been ill for a long time and he'd passed
Mm-hmm.
away. And I sat down to do a painting for her. I thought, I'll just do a nice painting and I'll send it to her because, you know, that might be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this painting, and as I was doing the painting, I started getting all like giggly, and I was like, hey, I've got to have rainbows in this one. There's got to be rainbows in the painting. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, there's something going on here. And so I sat down and I wrote her a little letter to go with it. And I said, look, while I was doing the painting, I kept getting the giggles and I had to do rainbows. And this particular name popped into my head and whatever. Anyway, she received it. And then she got back to me. She said, oh, yeah. So a couple of years earlier, her 7-year-old grandson had been killed in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a bit intense, yeah.
Yeah.
So he'd been in a car accident, but he was really good buddies with his brother or his cousin. I can't remember. He had a brother or a cousin that was the same age. And it was the cousin that was still here whose name I picked up. So,
Oh.
yeah, so that was really interesting. And then I kept finding that, you know, I'd do a painting for somebody and then I go, oh, I've got to write them out a little thing. And there was a lady, I didn't know her from a bar of soap, but I don't know, we were friends on Facebook somehow, and she just, I can't remember, don't even remember how, but we started chatting and I said, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing these things. And she went, great, can you do a painting for me and do a reading for me? And I went, sure. So, you know, I did the painting and then I spent about 3 hours typing up this reading that was about 5 pages long, which I charged her $55 for. And I sent it to her. And she goes, oh, interesting. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I've got it all wrong. Like, oh, my God. She just kind of went, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to sit with it and I'll get back to you. She said, by the way, can you do one for my daughter? And I went, okay. So I did one for her daughter, wrote out a reading for her as well, sent that off. And then she finally gets back to me and she goes, yeah, that was really spot on. She said, and in fact, the one that you did for my daughter, she started to read the reading, got a paragraph in. Before I'd even started the reading, I was just doing a bit of an example of something. She read the first paragraph, burst into tears and went, how the hell does this woman know so much about me, Mum? Did you tell her all about it? I was like, oh, that's cool. Down to, this one was really interesting. I said, I feel like you've got a dog and it looks like this. And the mum goes, we don't have a dog, but we've talked about getting a dog and we want it to look like that. I was like, oh shit, wow, that's pretty cool, right?
Right?
So I was having a few of those along the way and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I also did my color therapy diploma because I thought, well, that'll give me a bit more authority if I'm gonna be talking about stuff. And yeah, no, it's just kind of all worked its way together. So it's been really kind of cool because I've got my woo-woo stuff and I've got my art and color stuff, and then I've got like all my belief coding stuff, and I sort of do all of it together. So when I do an artwork and a reading, usually what I'm focusing on is not you're going to marry Bob in 2 months' time and you're going to have 3 children.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's not the way I want to go. Like I don't want to predict things.
Yeah. It's good that you know which way you want to, you know, that stuff isn't for me either, but you know, I like to go deep down as well.
That's right. And so when I'm looking at the colors, I'm looking more at again the beliefs and the patterns and the things like that have been getting in the way and getting them stuck. So yeah. And I suppose I should do some show and tell, shouldn't I? So
Please, that was my next question. Can you talk
yeah,
us through some? I mean, that they are so beautiful. It's
yeah,
absolutely amazing.
get an idea
I
of that one. So
particularly like that blue on top there.
well, that's the one I did today.
Wow.
So yeah, so they're all very different and they're all very unique.
Mm.
And each one of the paintings is infused. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, see, there you go. They're all
Oh yeah.
infused. So each of them has a message,
Uh-huh.
and each of them has oils that I use. So I use different essential oils in the artwork because, of course, proper essential oil blends have got a very specific vibration with them as well, right? So
Yes,
it's part
absolutely.
of like upping the energy of the artwork, I
Yeah.
suppose. Here's another one. So blues and greens and things. So lots of different. They're all completely, even when they're similar kind of colors, they're still completely different. Like, I mean, if you look at this one, there's that one, similar colors
Uh-huh.
to that one, but they're
But it's
still
still very
quite
different.
different.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, if I was to do a reading on them, I'd get very different readings.
Yeah.
So the way
Could
I
you
look at it,
show
so
us one
yeah,
like with a kind of an interpretation? So
yeah,
yeah, I would love
yeah.
that. Just,
All
you
right.
know,
Let's see which one I
quick
can
one or
find.
something, whichever one you feel,
Okay.
just
Woo.
so that people get an idea, if they're not so open.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like really touched every time I see your artwork, and I'm not
Oh,
an artsy person. So
well, that's because you feel it. You
yeah,
feel it on
I
that
do.
energetic level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we look at this one, all right, this is a smaller one.
Wow.
We've got a lot of the magenta tones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, magenta is it's a combination of red and purple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, red being the color of the base chakra, which is all about passion, but it's also about safety and security and stability, right? And it's about
Right.
what we need. So red, often we can relate red to money because it's to do with the safety and the stability and the security.
Yes. Uh-huh.
We also relate yellow to money because that comes in, that's where the worth and the value comes in, right? Is the solar plexus stuff, but we don't
Yeah.
have the yellow. So the magenta, so we've got the red tones, which is all that base chakra stuff, and then it's got the purple tones, which is the crown chakra, which is like that connection to source.
Yes.
And purple as well is often the color of the advocate. Like if you're somebody who loves to advocate for something or certain rights or whatever, that's a purple person usually. I call them purple.
Yeah.
So when you have the combination of the two and it becomes the magenta, I always look at that as the color of people who are really passionate about what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the physical passion as such. It's the calling,
Yes.
So it's got that spiritual element, but it's bringing it into their what it is that they need for themselves to keep them excited and keep them interested, right? So
Yeah.
we've got a lot of magenta there. We've also got this sort of dark royal blue. Now
Mhm.
that real
Third
navy
eye.
blue
Yeah.
is the third eye stuff, right? So it's intuition, but it's also it's a color that we also associate with authority. So police wear navy blue, and they often say that if somebody's wearing a navy blue suit, people trust them more than people in black suits or brown suits or whatever, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
just gives that impression of authority. So what I would say is that the person that will potentially end up buying this artwork, right, is someone who is very, very passionate about what they do. They're a real, they have a real spiritual calling
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what it is that they want to do. They are that authority figure, but they're also very intuitive, and people trust them, right?
Yes.
People trust them to help them. But then we've got this really sort of bright aqua color here. Now, aqua is another kind of blend. So you've got the blue element, which is the voice, okay, communicate. But then there's also the sort of like the greener tones, which is healing. So when I see like teal and aqua colors, I always think of healing with the voice. So, you know, that can be writing, that can be, excuse me, can be writing, it can be speaking, it can be counseling, it can be psychology, it can be NLP, anything where they're using their voice. Okay. So I would say that this person is probably somebody in a profession where they're like some kind of coach or counselor or something like that.
Yes.
Very committed, very excited about what it is that they do. And they're a real authority figure. They're very intuitive. They're very and very clever as well, you know, like intuitive, but also switched on. They know a lot of things. And then right here, we've got this really bright orangey red. Okay. Now, to me, I think that is actually orange. Let me shine my light on so I can see that. Yeah, see, I would say that's an orangey red. So it's very sacral, right? And sacral, of course, being creativity and you know, the base is about what we need, but the sacral is about what we want, right? So my feeling, and then there's all this gold through the middle, right? There's heaps of gold in this painting.
I love gold.
Yeah, gold. There's glitter as well. There's like shiny glittery bits, right? Because fairy. So I would say that this painting has probably been created for a woman. A woman who's very passionate, very creative, works with the voice. And I kind of feel like it would be somebody who's all about either like women's empowerment, but potentially also with that sexual element, like a sex coach or a tantra or a,
nice.
This is like you, isn't it? I just realized.
Good talk about it afterwards. I would love to. I've never done a tantra course though.
So yeah, there you go. It's you with your bloody spicy romances.
Yeah, exactly. That's my outlet of that side, definitely. Yeah. And
yes.
I like to empower women as well, on all levels, obviously, from root chakra all the way up.
It's goddess.
Yeah.
So that's an idea of how I read them, right? I look at the colors, I look at what they're next to and what they're blending with, and
I find that super, super fascinating. And you made a whole card deck out of your artwork as well, haven't you?
Yeah. So this was interesting because I did. So here it is. I did these. So all the artworks on here are artworks that I did like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They're older artworks. They're still pretty, but they're
I was gonna say they're still beautiful. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what happened with these was I kind of had been thinking for ages, I want to do a card deck, and then one day I went, right, that's it, I'm doing it. Because originally, when I've forgotten about this, I originally started a different card deck and I was channeling the messages. And they were full on like if you receive this card, then blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So that was going to be a card deck that was going to have like the book with it and everything. But what happened, that's right. I had done the paintings. I've done like half of the paintings and I had written up most of the messages. And then my husband managed to delete all of my information off the computer.
Oh, no. I hope that was a blessing in disguise.
Well, I think it kind of was.
Okay.
I think I had a lot of it written out somewhere. I've got no idea where. I think I had written a lot of it, but I'd also then sat down on the computer and just gone straight in there with other ones. So I was just like, oh my God. So I went, no, I'm not going to do it that way. And I sat down one day, and literally in the space of 2 days, I created the card deck, right? Because with these ones, they're, the meanings are written on the card, so I didn't need a book. And it just kind of happened. So basically within the deck, there's four different kinds of decks, right? So we've got the back side, the color card.
Yeah.
Because there's 78 cards in there, so every single card is got a different picture. So you can intuitively read the back, like what I was doing with the painting. Then we've got 3 different types of the written cards. So we've got declaration cards. So this is a declaration card because it's all one sort of shade, right? So it's all magenta. Well, not shade really, it's all different shades, but it's all one color. Yeah. So there's 18 of the declaration cards, and they are to do with a specific color. Right. So this one is I release obsession and embrace passion for all that I choose to do. Right.
Lovely.
Then we've got what's this one? I'll get to those ones in a minute because they're my favorites. We've got an affirmation card, right? So that's literally an affirmation. So I allow myself to create for the sheer joy it brings.
Nice.
that's a me card, that one. And then we've got what is called the revelation card. So these are the ones that I like the best because they're the ones that potentially can help you shift the most crap. And I'm all about shifting crap, right?
Yes.
So these are like self-inquiry cards. So the idea being that you read it and you go, oh, yeah, let me look at that. So this one, for instance, this is actually the painting that I use for my logo thing.
Yeah.
This one is, if my programs and patterns, if my programs are creating my reality, what purpose does my bad luck serve? So here you go. Here's another one. I like this one. It's pretty.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can use them without a book. But that being said, I've also created like a companion journal to use with the revelation cards so that you've got somewhere to write out your thoughts on what that is. But so what happened is I created the deck. I think that was in 2021 as well, actually. Created the deck, got it all. I got a sample deck printed, received it in the mail, and then I went, no, it's not the right time. Because at that stage I was talking a lot about my artwork, but I wasn't talking about the other side of what I do, all the belief coding sort of. I hadn't done my belief coding at that stage, but I had already trained in a lot of that kind of thing. And I thought it's not gonna work. People are gonna think they're gonna get confused, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I kind of just knew it wasn't the right time, so I left it. Yeah. And about a year after, I went, okay, now is the time.
Okay.
And that's when I sort of I got a few pre-orders, and then I got like 100 decks printed. So
awesome. So people can still purchase that from you.
Yeah. The only problem is that shipping is ridiculous. So it's $77 for the deck, and it's like nearly $50 for postage overseas. In Australia it's fine, but anywhere else they're going to be paying $50 for postage.
Yes, it's worth it though, definitely.
It is worth it. Yeah, it's worth it. And they're really good for people who do any kind of coaching work, or anyone that does the self-inquiry stuff, because you can use it with your clients.
Yes, absolutely.
So so those are interesting.
Would you draw a card from your deck for whoever's watching now, for our audience, just as
absolutely. And so every Monday I do my Monday message. So that's where I'll pull some different cards out. And what I say to everyone is, look at the cards that I put out, and if one of them really repels you and it makes you feel because sometimes you look at them and you go, ooh, I don't like that one. And if you don't like the card, you need to see what's on the card.
Yes, exactly.
Because usually those are the ones that are the things that you're stuck with.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that usually reveal the most. So
Yes.
yeah, I
I
find.
had that really hard with the scent, like lavender. I couldn't smell lavender. It would make me sick.
Yes.
Then that's exactly also what a friend of mine told me, and she gave me some lavender essential oil, just a little one. And she said, just keep sniffing it, and and work with that energy and that. And now I love it. I'm such a lavender fan. I've got like little tea bags full of dried lavender on my pillow when I sleep, and then just hold it under my nose and go like. That
Because
makes me
it's
feel so
like,
calm and peaceful.
exactly, it's the same thing with color, right? Is that the
Yeah.
smells, I mean, the sense of smell is linked to your amygdala, which is the seat of your memories and your emotions, right? So
Yes.
if you have a scent that's um been kind of linked with a negative memory or a negative emotion, and you might not even remember what that is. It could have been, oh, you were at somebody's house one day playing next to the lavender bush and you found out something horrible and your brain's just associated them, right? And it's the same thing with color. So
Wow.
I met a lady a few years ago at a psychic fair. I was actually doing the paintings at the psychic fair. And I did this one for this lady. And then we were doing a little sort of tapping session, and she basically said that she was going through, like, she was getting stalked by her ex. It was horrible.
Oh no.
Yeah, really horrible. And I said to her, all right, can you think of, she basically said, yeah, I feel like a victim. And I was like, okay, well, can you think of the first time in your life when you remember feeling like that? She said, yeah. I said, well, you don't need to tell me what happened. I said, but when you think about that memory, is there anything that stands out to you? Is there any colors or textures or whatever? And she goes, yeah, there was this really weird yellowy orange light in the room. And I said, how do you feel about the color yellow? She said, I hate it. I will not have it in my house. It makes me want to vomit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I said, well, that's why you don't like it. And she went, holy shit, nobody's ever pointed that out. I've worked with psychiatrists. I've worked with everybody. No one ever asked. And I said, that's just because I never asked that question, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody sees that. So this is the card, right?
Wow.
Now, this one's really interesting because, as you would know, I put gold in every one of my paintings. Like, they've all got gold in them.
Which is especially a factor I like so much about your paint.
Yeah,
You
that's
see, I've got
awesome.
I got golden candle, golden statue there.
Gold is a great color. But what's really interesting with this one is that you can't see the gold on there. And it's like literally the only card in the deck where you can't see gold on the picture.
Wow, so how did you hide it in there? Did you put it
I
in
don't
at
know.
all somewhere?
Maybe I just did. Oh, there's little tiny bits, but it's
Yeah.
not like most pictures where it's all over.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what I would say is that whoever this message is for, it's like the wisdom's there, but it's hiding, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they've been through an experience, and it's almost like they're choosing not to see the wisdom in the experience. They're deliberately not looking for the silver lining, I would say.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. Okay. So if we look here, see we've got this green in the corner, but
Yeah.
it's quite sort of black.
Mhm.
It's not black, but it's quite a murky looking green.
Yeah.
So I would say that this person, they've gone through an experience. It's made them feel quite bitter. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they're potentially holding on to a lot of anger and resentment towards someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to note here as well that whenever we're angry with someone, the real anger is actually with ourselves, right? So it's like, say somebody's done something awful to us,
Yeah.
Obviously, we're angry with them for what they did. But usually what's going on underneath that is we're even more angry with ourselves for not stopping it, for
Yes. I
for
can
not,
relate to that
for
as
not
well. Yes.
taking more action, for not doing more things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the bulk of the anger and resentment is actually directed inwards. Yep.
Exactly. Yes.
So so it's like I feel like there was a situation for this person that caused a lot of pain and heartache and bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And although there's a lot of, I don't want to say the word blessings because it doesn't feel like there's any blessings in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if they can, when they get through, when they get a bit further down the line,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be able to find the blessings in there, if that makes sense. Right?
Love that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's interesting because there's a lot of yellow and orange on there.
Yes.
And to me, you know, that there's a lot of confidence there. But it's, again, it's almost like, yeah, I don't know. It's like they haven't realized that confidence yet because they're still in this green bit.
Mm-hmm.
Once they can see the wisdom and they can see the other stuff, they're gonna come in here, right? It's like they're stuck here, and then it's gonna go, and then the magenta's gonna come in there. So it's, I feel like whatever this experience is, it's gonna lead to this. They're gonna end up finding their calling as a result of this. That being said, this
Beautiful.
shade of pink can also be, it can also be related to narcissism. So I dare say that this has got something to do with the narcissism, right? So I'd say they've come across somebody who's a real freaking asshole. Shall we? Okay.
Haven't
Anyway,
we all?
that went a little bit deep. Oh, that's funny. All right. So the thing on the back,
Yes.
it's an affirmation card, and it is, I choose to live in the now and let go of what no longer serves me. My past has no power over me.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that.
So
Because we have so
yeah.
much stuff we hold on to, isn't it? Lots of people,
Oh God.
and especially when we have areas where we feel so victimized, we often can't see how to let that go and get out of it.
Yeah. And I think
And
the
you get
problem for
used
so,
to it as well, isn't it?
yeah,
Because it's like it wasn't my fault, so that person should suffer. But why didn't they suffer? Why am I the only one who's suffering or something? You know, so you hold on to that injustice of it as well.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think this is where the problem comes in for a lot of people, is because they're angry with that person, but they then also think that it's that person that's stopping them from having a good life.
Mm.
But when they're putting all of their emotion out there on that person, then they've got no power in here. So they're
Yes. So you give your power away to that person, to
giving
that
the power away.
situation in the past. Yes.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
and that's why, you know, the forgiveness is such a big thing. And people go, but I don't want to forgive them because what they did was unforgivable. And you go, well, you're not forgiving them for their behavior. The whole reason for the forgiving is that you're literally going, I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to let that person affect me anymore.
Exactly. So you've got all your space and your mental and emotional energy to look forward, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's literally like going, okay, I'm done. Chop that off it goes. I'm back here.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, you know, a lot of the work that I do with people around their behaviors and their limiting beliefs and stuff,
Hmm.
they're always more angry with themselves than the people that did the worst things to them.
Yeah.
They could have been,
There's shame in it very often as well.
oh, so much.
Like, what does that make me that I allowed this, that I got myself into that situation, blah,
That's
blah,
right.
blah, all that. Yeah.
And they don't realize that, even as an adult, like you can be 65 years old and find yourself in a abusive relationship.
Yes.
And they don't realize that the roots of that abusive relationship were way back when they were kids.
Yeah.
Because if you've
Absolutely.
decided as a 7-year-old that you're not good enough, or that you're not worthy, or that everybody hates you, or that you're always being attacked, or I'm a victim, or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like you keep trying to remind
Reenact them.
yourself of
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And all we're going to do is shift that thing back there, and then you can make better choices here.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's not about being punished. It's not about, any of that sort of thing. It's literally, we find ourselves attracted to things that are going to reinforce the beliefs that we already have.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Clear out the belief and then change it to a new one, and then suddenly we attract different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So, how can people reach you when they want to have like a session with you, or buy a painting, or
Yeah,
you do custom paintings for people as well, don't you?
I do. So I call my artworks Soul Code Artworks.
Right.
And I also do Soul Code Aura Artworks. So what I do with those is it's kind of like an aura painting. They still look, like these.
Yeah.
There's no outline of a person or anything like that.
Mm.
But what I'm doing there is I'm tuning into your energy. So you give me your name at birth and your birth date.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not comfortable giving out that kind of information, then you can create like an 8-digit code, and I can tune into that, kind of like remote viewing. I'm assuming I could do it that way. I haven't had to do it that way, but I'm sure I can. So I just need something to tune into, and then I will intuitively create the artwork. I'll pick whatever colors come through. I'll pick whatever oils come through. I'll put the message that comes in on the back. And then when the artwork's done, we sit down and we read it together. And we can do that online. Doesn't have to be in person, thankfully. And then once the reading's done, then I post the artwork. Because it's much easier for me to read it in front of me rather than on a camera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
the
so
light
that's
reflection and yeah,
exactly.
and camera distorts colors as well, doesn't it?
It
So,
does.
yeah.
It does. And that's what I find a lot of people, they get their artwork and they go, oh, this is so much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the camera just doesn't pick up the depth really of the
Yes.
color, and you
Yeah.
can't see the glitter in there, and you can't see a lot of things. So yeah, it's a lot different in person. But yeah, so that's a Soul Code Aura artwork. The ones that I've already created, like all of these ones, the way I look at it is they're also aura artworks, but I didn't know who I was tuning into when I did it. So often what happens is somebody, I might do a painting in 2021, and then somebody buys it now, and then I can read it and it'll be relevant to them now, not back when I put it. Obviously, I'm not really obviously I'm reading the person, but I'm just using the artwork as the focal
Yeah,
point.
because there's this energetic connection, isn't it? It's
Well,
like an art mirror image of what they
exactly.
are, who they are.
And that's like that one that I was reading, and I went, "Oh, that's you." Well, of course.
I was thinking that actually. I was saying, oh, that fits me really well.
He's reading me.
Love that.
I'm like, oh, there's all these right. Yeah. Yeah, so I can do those. I can also do belief coding sessions, all that sort of thing. And I have packages where you do sort of we do like a before and after artwork, and then we do some belief coding in the middle. So, you know, we look at what's your energy like now, what's coming up for you now, and then, you know, series of belief coding sessions over a few months, working on a specific issue. And then we do another artwork at the end and see how all the colors have changed and what's coming through.
I love that.
So that can all be done as well. Lots of things.
Nice.
You know what I'm like? Can't help myself. Keep creating more stuff.
Yeah. You
But yeah,
have
so they can
so
find
much
me.
creative energy. I love it. Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
They can find me at nessalovell.com. So NESSALOVELL.com. Or Instagram and Facebook as well.
I'm
So
good.
then that,
Yeah, I'm going to put all the links in the info box as well for people so they
perfect.
can just click on it and find you.
Awesome. And I have, if you go on to any of those, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or my webpage, you can book a free 15-minute phone call as well. I call it a mini soul alchemy call. So what we do with that is chat about what's going on for them. And then I can sort of say, all right, well, I think based on that, we could do this or we could do that. So I'm not a fan of selling people on stuff that they don't need.
Yeah, same here.
I think it's important to work with where they're at and what they need the most. So if they need a belief coding session, then I'll say, let's do a belief coding session. If they just need that magical experience, well, then we're going to go with the artwork. If they need a bit of clarity, we might go with the artwork. So it really just comes down to the person as to what we end up doing.
Yeah, that's really good to know as well. And, you know, it's a point of ethics as well. It's not just like, oh, let's sell the, you know, most expensive thing here, but just, you know, really go what the client needs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think, you know, some of us, you included, you know, we're all about the client. We're not about our bottom line, which, you know, may not be the best thing for business, but it's the best thing for our clients. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, obviously we'd love it, you know, if it was a win-win situation and that kind of thing, but I would never put my my ethics and ideals aside and my moral codes to just make money.
Exactly.
We're just not that sort of person, are we? No.
No, that's right. There you go.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful interview and so much insight into your interesting artwork, healing, everything you do is just amazing. Do you have any last words, like a last message that you want to say to people?
I think, you know, the basis of everything I do and the thing that I always want people to grasp is how important it is to develop that self-awareness and that understanding of our responses and reactions to all the things that are happening around us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't seem to have a lot to do with my artwork, but it is still, I think, the basis of everything I come back to. It's all about transformation, because when you understand yourself on that deeper level, when you can recognize when you're getting triggered by something and go, oh, hang on, that's where that came from, then you've got a lot more power in that moment. You can do a lot more with that.
Absolutely. I found that as well. That has helped me a lot, that self-awareness and knowing of where things come from.
Yes.
It's really powerful.
That's
A
it.
whole
And even
different
with
ball.
the artworks, it's all about that. It's all about, well, what's going on here? I can see there's issues with your family. Do you know what that is? Oh, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
it's all about that. So
Yeah.
wherever you are, whatever you're doing, focus on that first.
Yes.
Always.
And I mean, like your artwork or, you know, what readings or whatever else, that's all a tool to work on yourself that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
as somebody says, I really love that painting. I just want to hang it on my wall and gaze at it and feel happy. And
Yeah.
then
Look,
which is
it'll
cool
still
as
work.
well because it's got like really, really high vibrational energy. So artwork has. So I really love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it, it'd still work, but it works
Mm.
better if you can look at it and see yourself reflected in it, because that's the way I look at the
Yeah.
artworks, is that they are your energy on paper. I used to call them energy imprints, but nobody knew what I was talking about. So so it's literally
Yeah.
like your energy on paper. So if you can't look in the mirror and go, look how gorgeous I am, you look at your painting and go, oh my God, look how gorgeous I am. You know,
Yeah.
wow, I've got
Superstar.
sparkles. Look at my pretty purple. You know,
I love it.
so it all comes back to the same thing, doesn't it?
It
And
does,
it
yeah.
reminds you, right? You look at, you hang that on the wall and it reminds you of who you want to be. Like I've got one I did for myself a couple of years ago. I was doing a session with a friend of mine who does a spiral technique.
Hmm.
And she said, you need to go and you need to do a painting of your masculine. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did a painting of my masculine side. I called it Vance, Vance and Vanessa. And I hung it in my bedroom. So where I sleep, I wake up in the morning and it's sort of hanging up kind of at the foot, almost at the foot of my bed. So I see it every morning when I look at it. And every time I look at it, I go, oh, that's right. That's my masculine side. That's pretty. I like it.
Nice. Yeah.
Very impactful. So, you know,
Love that.
yeah, you can
Absolutely.
definitely use it to remind yourself of who you want to be, where you want to go.
That is really empowering work that you do. And thank you so much for giving us an insight into that. I hope, you get a lot of people interested now also to book you maybe and, work with you because
Yeah.
it's definitely helpful. More than very empowering and a great joy. You might
Oh,
cry in the process, but
but you know, if you cry, then you'll make my day.
yeah, and that's a good thing. You're releasing
That's right.
things, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you cry, you know that you've got to the heart of the matter. You've found the
Yeah.
thing that's going to make all the difference. So the more you cry, the better the results sometimes.
Exactly. Right. Just stay on the line for a minute. I just say thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.